Hey everyone, how you doing today? As we mentioned in our daily financial news, we start off strong with Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
Doing great. It's Mondays with Michael is what it is.
I love that. Mondays with Mike. I need to get you a t-shirt that says that. Uh, one of the things I've always wanted to ask you, because of my experts, you're my developer, right? You're the one that sees a plot of land, you can envision, you've done big developments, you've done one-offs, you've done all these things. I just want to ask you just a question that probably lots of people have, and that is simply said, why aren't developers building more affordable housing? That's simple. Why aren't they building more affordable housing? Why are they being so greedy and building McMansions and all of this other stuff?
Well, number one is affordability. So the land is a problem. Land prices have gone through the roof. And so the landowners, they want to maximize their profit. So it starts there. Nobody's willing to give up their land for affordable housing.
Mm.
It starts there. Then you have the regulatory environment. The approval process, the entitlement process is extremely expensive, cumbersome. Then you have the actual improvements, site improvements themselves. Those costs are through the roof right now. Site work is one of the most expensive aspects of construction right now. You think lumber went up?
Ugh.
Lumber has gone up 300% in the last year or so. So is site work. Site work is extremely expensive.
Mm.
Used to be able to do commercial site work and residential subdivision site work from 100 to maybe 200,000 an acre. It's 300 to 500,000 an acre now.
Wow.
Depending on what kind of dirt you're moving and rock and things like that. Stormwater is a problem. So there's all kinds of issues in the regulatory environment, building codes, things like that. Just the whole approval process. Then you have construction costs right now. I mean, it's through the roof. Plywood used to be $8 to $10 a sheet for OSB. It's 50.
Oh,
30 to 50 now. Studs were $4, $3. Now they're $10. So it's just up and down there. So that's really the bottom line, is the affordability and the availability of land. And builders have to make a profit. So you can't expect builders and developers to take the risk that you have to take for development and do it for free. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So there has to be some profit. And, there's really not much of a difference in the margins on affordable housing and, any other subdivision. You can just make bigger numbers on bigger, more expensive product because your ticket is bigger, but there's still a good profit margin on affordable housing. It just doesn't work. Numbers just don't work.
Yeah. So I just want to kind of walk that back from somebody who's not in the business, never developed anything. So basically what I hear you're saying is just to get to the point where you're putting up the sticks, right? Where you're putting up the structure of a house, the cost to get there from raw land through land, securing the land, the putting in curbs and gutters and water and all of that, uh, you know, building codes, all of that, you're at some price point that really makes it it just makes it impossible to build an affordable house, whatever affordable is in your area.
Right. And it's usually, so let me qualify that. It's usually because we're talking about areas of high demand. So that's like going into Silicon Valley and try to do affordable housing. It ain't going to happen. But you go to Fresno, sure. You can, in and around Fresno, you get on the outskirts of the city limits of Fresno, you could probably do it there. So the problem is you can do affordable housing, but nobody wants to live where you can afford to do it. So we're talking about urban cores and the urban centers where, land costs are just too expensive. So, yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I've been asked about, I don't know if you have any answer to this, and if you don't, we'll just move on. But I've had several people mention, what about 3D printed housing or something? Have you seen any of that stuff? I haven't.
Yeah. So 3D printed houses is not what you think. So what it is, it's basically, if you imagine a giant printer set up on like scaffolding. So you have these, metal columns and, beams, and then you have this concrete
pour or whatever. Yeah.
Concrete head that just kind of follows, a programmed outline, and it just basically layers concrete is what it does.
Okay.
So it's not like plastic or, it's not like you're actually literally printing something. It's basically, a printer head that, prints that pours concrete and it layers it. So it's really cool. It's a fantastic, I think, process. They're saying, there was a company in New York that just did a house and sold it. And there's one down in, I think it's Texas, that's doing it. And it's been popular in Europe for a while. And they say it's half the cost, of traditional construction, and, half the time. So a little 1,200, 1,300 square foot house, you can print out in a day, basically,
Wow.
once you get everything set up. You set everything up in a day. It takes a couple people to operate the thing,
Sure.
and you can print it out. Now, it's new technology. So there's code issues they're working through in the different areas. Again, building compliance, creates the biggest cost. The trades are figuring it out and how to work with it. And then there's still, depending on how you want to finish it, there's still some limitations and some issues that can drive time and cost, because again, it's just a concrete structure. So if you don't, sheetrock the inside, you can either smooth it or you leave it in layers. It's really interesting how it looks.
Okay.
And there's been some multi-story structures that have been done. They're starting to experiment with commercial and multi-family, but a lot of these things, the biggest issue is you're limited in your dimensions, because, you only go so wide. So you got to kind of stack them and move them. But I think it's a fascinating process. I've looked at it. It's something that I thought about playing with and experimenting with, because it is energy efficient. There's no waste like there is in traditional construction. It cuts your time frame down like by 400%. And the cost, what they're saying, is 50% of traditional construction, turnkey.
Yeah, probably a lot less tradesmen, right? I mean, I would think.
Well, you still have the same trades, but you have less work to do. So you're not drilling holes in, all the studs and doing all that, because they're concrete walls, interior and exterior. The entire structure is concrete. So you put chases in there so that wires just get pulled through. So you're not sending somebody around the house, drilling and doing all that. You don't have somebody running around the house bolting stuff and putting, things like that. Now, a lot of the roof structures are still wooden shingles, so they've got some issues there to work out and things like that. But the main, structure and foundation, it's all concrete. So it's very efficient, very quick, very inexpensive.
I'm glad I asked. So what I'm hearing,
popular it gets, we'll see, because then cement and concrete and all that's going to start going through the roof.
Supply and demand, of course. So I'm glad I asked. So what I'm hearing you say is 3D printed houses have a potential to address, because again, you can really, do the smaller homes, like kind of. Cool. I'm glad I asked.
You can do big houses too. I mean, there's some luxury houses being done with it as well, but most people are experimenting with smaller houses just because, it's limited in terms of what you can do just on the technology of the systems right now. But as they get more evolved and we go more in time, it'll be cheaper to buy those 3D printers, and they'll be able to do more, cover more area, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's going to be fun. I might go look up some of those.
Yeah, you should research it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I will do that. Anything else, affordable housing is one of those topics that's getting more and more attention, with this administration. Any other thoughts about what could be done?
So the trends in the industry right now, concrete 3D printing, fold up houses where they come flat and you fold up. So there's a couple of manufacturers, a lot of venture capital pouring into that to solve affordable housing. There's also pre-built, housing for ADUs for investments, especially in California. That's huge. The costs haven't really come down on a lot of those yet. There's still some of those for nicer ones are still, fairly expensive, but 40 to 80,000 for an ADU. That's not too bad. So I think you're going to see manufactured housing, modular, not mobile homes, but modular housing that are traditional stick-built structures but are built in a facility, as well as 3D printed structures. We'll probably start to see, more of those foldable type houses. So there's a lot of technology out there right now, just because of the constraints on the building industry from labor. It's just going to get worse. More and more people are exiting the trades, and there's nobody coming up behind them, because nobody wants to work in construction, because it is so cyclical. It's great right now. Everybody's making money right now, but the guys that are making the money are the trades, because they're in the most, demand right now. Builders are having a hard time because the costs are going up for materials. Trades are going up. They can't get them on the site. It's taking longer. There's more risk now as a builder than there's ever been. And then it'll all change. As soon as the market changes, boom, it'll all drop down. So the key is
builders build, right? That's what they know. That builders build. Yeah. Pretty crazy. Well, so affordable housing, it's always one of those hot topic issues. And again, maybe I feel it because, again, we're in the Silicon Valley here, and it's like, what's affordable, right? So somebody put out affordable housing the other day was $1.2 million. I'm like, really? That's affordable housing? I mean, I live in a weird part of the world.
Well, and all the big, Google, Facebook, Amazon, they're trying to do what they can as well. Microsoft, they're investing in housing everywhere for their employees and for the communities, because they can't get anybody to come there. It's too expensive.
Exactly.
And so one solution is to invest in housing local to where they're at. And you're seeing some of that go on in Seattle and Portland and, you know, some of these other areas. I don't know about your area, or I don't know about the Silicon Valley area, but I think they're doing some things.
Yeah,
But what
Google
they're
is,
mainly doing
Yeah.
is leaving those areas, and they're going to San Antonio. They're going to Raleigh,
Absolutely.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
You know, Apple's building a, you know,
$1 billion facility in
yeah,
Raleigh.
yeah. So they're going to these areas where there's plenty of housing and it's way more affordable than a lot of other areas. But true affordable housing is defined as housing that's from a payment standpoint, that's going to be a percentage of somebody's income in the lower income bracket that can afford it. And that's being addressed through Habitat for Humanity, who, you know, I've been a big supporter of that over the years. I used to build houses every year for nothing for Habitat, you know, like we'd go frame them.
Yep.
You know, and do that kind of thing. And, you know, so they're coming in doing subdivision work and creating affordable housing. But really it's going to be, you know, you got to have some tax incentives. You got to have, you know, you know, federal, local, and state governments step up and help offset some of these costs in order to make it happen, or pull the foot off of the regulatory environment to make it more affordable, you know, granting more density, you know, those types of things.
Very cool. Well, affordable housing is a hot issue. It is very important. You know, getting more people on the property ladder is a good idea. So it will be interesting. And yeah, I'm going to go check out 3D printed houses. I did not expect that answer. So that's very cool. Thanks, buddy.
Yep.